I'm reading an extract from A Shadow's Keep by Helen Stockton, which is a short story that I wrote when I was interested particularly in Gothic elements. So I've deliberately tried to use Gothic elements and give them a bit of a modern twist. So it's a slightly spooky story. She didn't like the house. She had passed it regularly on her daily walk since she'd been off work, and she still couldn't pinpoint exactly why. It was large, set well back, but still on the ridge, with expansive views across a contrived rural wilderness. There was an extension to one side, probably a kitchen, Amber concluded, with large glass panels in the roof, diffusing direct light in the manner recommended by the glossy interior magazines that littered waiting rooms and clinic receptions. Yet the frontage faced north. The red brick paving had been pressure cleaned the previous spring, but the moss had insidiously crept back, and the carefully selected shade-loving plants struggled under the sterile shadow of two large conifers. Even the hypericum, usually robust to the point of invasiveness, looked leggy, Amber noted. The black wooden beams of the building had faded to a weathered grey. The tall chimneys pointed at the sky like accusing fingers, and the roofing oppressed the aged dormer windows that sat in their rimless sockets, gazing out at a shadowed world through leaded frames. Amber started. A cat with that unnerving feline capacity for appearing out of nowhere was rubbing itself sinuously against her legs. As Amber bent down to stroke him, he purred generously. He was wearing a tartan collar with a metal nameplate, but as Amber tried to read it, he twisted his head away. He was unremittingly black, and his eyes glowed greenly, an unworldly luminescence. Having received the expected homage, the cat melted through the gateless entrance to the house and jumped effortlessly onto a curved wall that formed a small circle to the right of the front path. Amber had noticed this before. It looked like a well, real rather than ornamental, with tired bricks, crumbling mortar and ivy fingering its way through, advancing its decline. The wooden cover, like an ancient recumbent cartwheel, sat heavily over its opening. But something was amiss. The well cover had been moved to one side, exposing about a third of the opening in a crescent of darkness. Amber felt a sudden surge of concern, which she consciously attached to the well-being of the cat. Amber followed him into the front garden. Maybe she could push the cover back into place. She reached the well, but was seized with a sudden curiosity. Was she right? Was it real? And if so, how deep was it? The cover was as heavy as it looked, but Amber managed to push it back a little further. The smell of cold, ancient moistness emanated from the blackness. The water, though tangible, was invisible. She picked up a stone and dropped it, straining her ears for the splash. It must only have been a couple of seconds, but it seemed an interminable wait. Amber could imagine the stone falling and falling, feel the penetrating damp and darkness, and, with a growing awareness of the depth of the fall, she could feel her panic rising. The sound of the stone hitting the water was distant, small and echoey, but offered no relief. As she felt her breath rasping and her chest constricting, she heard a second sound that emerged out of the first, a thin, reedy wail, like a sickly baby crying.